les cyclopes? Well, we're familiar with the cyclopes from ancient Greek mythology. They were this race of one-eyed monsters, the most famous of whom was certainly Polyphemus. He was the one who we meet in Homer's Odyssey, blinded by the hero Odysseus. But being one-eyed monsters, they were pretty weird and pretty mysterious. Now, Jean-Philippe Rameau, the early 18th century French composer, was also pretty mysterious and weird in his own way, although to be fair to him, probably not one-eyed monster weird. But what do I mean? Well, he was a really seminal figure in the history of music in many respects. He was absolutely crucial, for example, in the development of opera. This was a mantle that he'd taken on from his countryman Lully. But he also wrote very important works for the keyboard and very important theoretical works. And yet, for somebody so important, in his day, some people in France would call him the Isaac Newton of music, no less. But for somebody so important, we know next to nothing about him, and that to me is mysterious. Even his wife is said to know nothing whatsoever of his early years. One of the things that we think we do know about him, however, was that he was absolutely obsessed with the harpsichord and would play it non-stop. And as you might expect from someone like that, he was really rather good at it. And so what we have here in this rondo Les Cyclopes is a virtuosic work, therefore one, yes, with some tricky corners, but one which ultimately is really idiomatic and playable. Now, I said idiomatic there. What do I mean by this? It's a bit of a can of worms because this is a pièce pour clavecin, harpsichord. And as we know, the harpsichord behaves very differently from the piano. The considerations of dynamics are completely different. The touch is totally different. The keys are often much narrower, meaning that distances on a harpsichord feel totally different distances on a piano. And so what is idiomatic for harpsichordists isn't necessarily quite so easy for us as pianists, and of course there are things vice versa. So when we approach this thing as pianists, I think what's most important is that we take ownership of it for our instrument, find pianistic solutions to pianistic problems. Here's a really simple example of what I mean. Let's look at bar 7. We also get it in bar 12, this semiquaver figuration. We'll get it later in the piece too. Now, ostensibly, this is all to be taken in the left hand. And if you watch some performers, they will indeed play it all with the left hand. However, remember what I said, distances on the harpsichord are often less than they are on the piano. And that's quite a long way to travel, especially at speed, if it's the speedy interpretation that we end up taking with this piece. So, are there other ways to do it? Well, another solution that you'll often see